Hello once again, and welcome to Up Yours Performance YouTube racing channel. Today we got a how-to on water pump replacement. We'll go ahead and go through everything, and from tear down, installation, and we'll even see if we could torque everything to the proper specs. We even got a couple gallons of coolant and all new parts. So as we start from here, we'll go from there. Well, this is what we're working on today. It's 2002 Ford Taurus with a 3.0 liter. These are one of my favorite engines to work on, being that they're so maintainable, and a lot of people don't like them, but to me they're really easy to work on, and Ford had a great idea with these to, make them go in there and maintain them and do maintenance to them. So there's tons of stuff to do. All this stuff is basic that goes on with these cars, and we'll go ahead and see if we could get this set up here to follow along and watch the tear down, and I'll show you guys which hardwares to remove and what's the fastest and easiest way possible to get this thing going. Here's the coolant in the new water pump we got. I'm going to wind up doing a inner tie rod and wheel bearing on the driver's side. My brother's going to do that work. So we acquired a couple new tools. Here we got the Milwaukee Hex Driver Lithium 18. It's not the fuel or the brushless, but it does swell. So far I like it. Right here in the right front corner we got a 10 bolt, and back here in the back corner we got a 10 nut. So we'll move the water jug out of the way. We have to disconnect the hoses. One of my favorite pairs of pliers for, just about any general clamp. These you won't see just about nowhere. These are special pair of pliers I found at a yard sale. If you do find them or know the brand, chime in. I'd like to buy more. Well, what do we do now? Give this a crack. Just keep tightening it.
So what, till it pops?
So down on the bottom we got the main feed down here for the reservoir to the radiator. What we'll do is we'll use the pinch off clamps to the hose, and then we'll use some 90-degree needle nose to go ahead and remove the clamp. Those seem to work pretty swell for these. If not, we could use another tool. Well, it sounds like you got the ball joint removed, and I was a little bit shocked by the way that tool has the action. It didn't work. So I chose the straight pair of needle nose instead of those other right angle ones I had. These ones got a little bit more bite, and you're in confined areas down in there. Let's see if I can wiggle that jug off while the clamp's loose. It's only got so much room in there. I'm just working the hose off the end of the jug. Sometimes it could be a little bare with all this stuff in the way, so try not to damage anything and just remove it the best we can possible. You can see it's kind of dirty. So with all that removed, you can see what we're working with here. Confined areas. Went ahead and removed that plug for the AC pressure switch in order to get access down there to that clamp. See, we got that clamp removed. Everything pinched off, minimal spill of the coolant. We got all those 13mm water pump drive bolts loosened already. So then next we'll go ahead and remove some of this bracketry and probably get that alternator out of the way.
And the coolant was previously water also.
Well, they can hear you there, so
we don't make messes.
We've already pre-flushed the system in anticipation of this job.
A big tie bar. Pull that arm down.
So at this point here, like I mentioned, I'm going to get all this bracketry out the way. Taking a little rest for a monster. Let's see, we'll need some 13s. 13s. Looks like this one here's a 15. So we'll try one of those mountain. Flex head. Reversible ratchet wrenches. Look, you see? Those are a charm. These are like my go-to for the wrenches period now these days. Even if it's in a confined area, because you can just reach right in there and go ahead and, you know, all you got to do is break it loose most of the time. That's the objective. And then the rest of the way you could just wheel it right on out. So at this point I'll grab the zipper gun. I'll go ahead and zap all this stuff right off here. I do the 15 first. When I really disassemble a car, a lot of the old school guys used to tell me, don't pay attention where any of that stuff goes, because right now is not the time to worry about it. The only time to worry about is when you assemble the stuff. So sometimes I could get real finicky and place all my hardware in some form or type of tray or holder. I've even went as far as to get some, okay, now I'm hurrying up myself there. Should take off the belt now, because I've seen the alternator move. Okay. So as I was saying, the only time you should care where the hardware goes is when you reassemble it, because in disassembly it's not as critical or a particular requirement as where the placements of the hardware goes. But as far as assembly goes, you're going to want to know 110% of where everything goes. So whether or not you're putting the same exact bolts in the same exact place where you removed them from or not, that's a whole nother story. But typically all these vehicles are made with the hardware that just goes in one place. Yeah, you might have 3 or 6 hardwares that are the same from left to right, but even when I do jobs, sometimes I took the bolt off so I know where it went, you know. Even if I forget, I'll sit there and wait. So we're taking off this last bracket here, getting a little bit more access to this water hose back here. Got it done with the dual system, like I mentioned. Got the mountain flex. As you can see, we're coming right along here. I'll zap the alternator off. Zip zap, my favorite thing to do. Zip zap, just like that. I try to place the hardware back sometimes too, for the most part. Because if you put the hardware exactly where it goes, you don't got no problem with putting it back when you reassemble it. So alternator comes right out, like previously mentioned. So we'll go back in here and I'll give you guys a little idea with the alternator and all that out of the way. Belt removed. Next we'll move the idler. Looks like we got a little play in that. We'll have to address that some when the time comes, probably as soon as possible. Tensioner seems okay. It felt good when I pulled the spring back, but here's the real problem here. Okay, so we'll get that changed out. Like I said, got the hardware already loosened, so looks like we'll just need the ratchet wrench to get back in there. The reason I like these engines so much because they come in quite a few different vehicles. And like I said, they're very serviceable and easy to maintain if you're interested in doing that or putting the money into something like this. But I generally like to work on them. That's just my opinion. It's not that I know them well, it's just I'm fluent with them, and like I mentioned, they're so serviceable. If they weren't serviceable as far as I say, then I really wouldn't like to work on them. I like stuff that got ease of service. So at this point, we'll go get the mountain. See if we can get us in here a little bit deeper. Minutes in. Looks like that water pump's about to be out of there pretty soon.
And the wheel bearing's off.
And the wheel bearing's off. 12 minutes in. He don't even got 12 minutes on that wheel bearing. But like I said, these cars are so serviceable. Who wouldn't want to do these? You know, I mean, as far as mechanic-wise goes in gravy, this is it. This is like the pinnacle of gravy, you know. A lot of people hate to service these cars or work on them. You got a Torx right here. see if I got an idea there. 45. Looks like it's a 50, so we'll run with the 50 and break that out of there and get some more access.
Don't forget that Loctite.
Yep, he said don't forget that Loctite. I hear a lot of guys saying, well, if it's torqued properly, you don't need that. Well, they wouldn't have it on there from the factory and torqued properly if they didn't need it.
I've seen cases on the Fords where people don't put the Loctite on the brake caliper bracket, and the caliper bracket
Rattles loose. That's why they got all that Loctite on the F250 and Plus series. So the front caliper brackets that torque to like 165 foot-pounds torque don't rattle loose.
And that goes for the Explorers as well. And or Exploder.
And or Exploder. So as you can see, we're in there basically right now. We'll back out a little bit. Get back in there real quick and see what's going on. I just noticed some dripping, so it's evident not only that the pulleys failed. Oh, there it goes. Let's see if we capture that. There it is right there. Alright, so we'll get the hose off. And got a bracket right there. And got the rest of the hardware, and we'll get that hose off. Let's see if we can get some better angles over here. I'm going to take us down from the mobile tripod here. Just bear with me. So we got some more 13s, looks like a bunch of 10s. Bunch of 13s, 10s, 5/16s or 8s, whatever you want to call them. First things first, let's get this hose clamp off here. I mentioned, these ratchets can be utilized greatly. Ratchet wrench, that is. A lot of you might be wondering why I'm doing this by hand, but I've gotten to these habits to where I think it's just as fast as any other tool out there, but whatever. I mean, yeah, you could spin the bolts off faster with the zipper gun or whatnot, electric ratchet, whatever. I mean, if you want to do it right, always go back to hand for some reason. That's how you assemble engines. I mean, unless you're in a factory. So we'll have to clean all these mating surfaces. I don't know whether or not we got any type of cleaner, but I'll have to clean them regardless in order for the sealing / mating surfaces to seal and do their job. So these are the two lowest bolts on the bottom of the water pump. I'm moving the third one right now. As I mentioned, they're either 8mm or you can use a 5/16. Either way, both sizes work. said it got too hot. You know, I don't think it's too hot today, but if this phone's in the direct sunlight, I'm sure it's gonna shut down. So that's what happened. I thought it was still recording, but it wasn't. So at that point we just restarted the footage. So with that being said, here's the water pump coming right out the weep hole. You see, is obviously engaging into the face of the pump. Looks like this may have been the original water pump. So we get a scraper, and it's aluminum, so try and get that surface cleaned up, preferably a razor blade. anytime you're changing gaskets, this could be some of the most boringest parts to watch, is cleaning the deck surfaces or mating surfaces, gasket sealing surfaces, whatever you want to call them. But to me, it's one of the most important parts of the job. So that's why I'm taking such a long, drawn-out process in order to ensure it's a smooth, clean surface for the next gasket to seal correctly. It looks like it's going to do it for the mating surface. It's not my best clean, but it's definitely going to be suffice for a sealing surface. For the new gasket, we'll just let it dry off since we used water. Get it all wiped down nice and clean so we can put the new gasket and pump on. And we'll look up the torque specs and then we'll install it. Let's take a little look here and see what we got. Out in the sun today on a nice sunny Sunday. We're here at my brother's garage. So it looks like we got a little bit on the top there of those 2 bolt holes. Other than that, I say that's just going to be just enough. So we'll take a break here, wash up our hands and things, and we'll get back to this. 22 minutes and just cleaning gasket surface alone. I'm gonna take a little break, go get some brake cleaner. That's what we've got here. As promised, there's the torque specs. We'll go ahead and get the larger hardware to 18 foot-pounds and smaller hardware 89 inch-pounds. See their number and all that for you. You can pause it, save it, whatever you want. 2002 Ford Taurus 3.0 SES. So we went ahead and took the brake clean, cleaned up all the hardware. Got the threads all set up, see, even that got Loctite on it there from the factory. Went ahead and finished cleaning up some of the main surface of the brake clean, get that all set up. I think that's good enough. We'll just shove some RTV in the holes that aren't blind. Go to oil and coolant, whatnot, timing cover, and get the sucker bolted back up. Okay, what we got going on here now is the instructions are laid out. Tell us how to bolt this here water pump on and give us the torque specs if we need. I don't know about you guys, but I use this here trim adhesive, carpet, body, heavy duty spray, whatever. I glue all my gaskets on, so let's double check, make sure I'm gluing the right part. You don't want to glue it backwards, because then when you go to lay it back on, you done glued the wrong side. So lay it right side such. Get some of this stuff on there. Let's see if it's spraying right. I just put a good lather on there. Nice little coating to get it tacked up, and I just use it typically to hold it in place, not to glue the gasket or anything, or as a sealing agent, or none of that. I just use it to hold in place. Nothing more, nothing less, just to hold it while I install the unit. So with that being said, we got it all set up. Get the glue on there, get it nice and tacky, get it set down. You can see it made a nice good surface there. I like just pulling it back up again. Let it dry off a bit and get nice and tacky there. Once the air gets in between it, you put it back on and it'll hold in place just right. So when you go sliding your bolts in and all that, you don't have your gasket moving all over the place and you're fighting the threads against the gasket surface or things like that nature. And if so, you can at least screw it together and, you know, use the gasket to pull in the threads. Alright, that's all set up. Now that we know our torque, get back set up over here, see what we could do to get this thing bolted in. torque wrench is already set up to spec, so I need some TV, as you say. Got some right here. This is the ultra black. I like that the most. Just throw in the holes that aren't blind, so they seal up pretty good. Those cavities would be the larger diameter hardware. The other 5/16 or whatnot don't really necessarily need that. 6mm, whatever they call them. This pump set up in place there's no dowel pins on there, so here's a couple of the hardware as a guide. Leave it in place there. I mentioned the 8mm hex can get torqued to 89 inch-pounds, and the 13mm hex can get torqued to 18 inch-pounds. Get the torque wrenches all set. I'll pop those out here in a minute once I run these bolts in, get the gasket kind of seated. Get everything held in place. We don't have to sit there and hold everything. pause for a second here, get the torque wrenches. Alright, so back in motion we go. Go ahead and torque the larger hardware down. 18 foot-pounds. Click style torque wrench. Let's drop her there. Oh no, this ain't click style, this is split beam, excuse me. Split beam. Have a little click when I reach my setting. For the other hardware, we'll be using the click type. This is split beam. This one's set up here. 89 inch-pounds. There we go. Extension was a little too long. Get back in there. That's it. That's it. we go. This is all torqued. Double check a couple others. Go back over the larger hardware. Make sure we didn't miss nothing. It's all set. It's all set. It's all set. And she's all torqued up. That's how you do water pump in a 3.0 Taurus SES overhead valve motor. So we'll finish up the installation with the hoses and the rest of the hardware, and then we'll put some coolant in there and see what we got. Pulley only goes on one way, so can't mix that up. Although you'd be surprised, huh? What you will find and what people will do. Pulley bolted up there. The hose and the crank sensor on already. Snug those up. Give those a tighten when we get the belt back on. Make sure, let's get the bracketry bolt back in there. Well, we got time. Hose back on. Put it back in the same spot as where we took it out from. At this point, we'll need the tensioner back in. 55 torque. two here good and tight. Get the alternator back in. Get this here idler back in. Good and tight. Zip wrap. High R12. Another zip zap. This one's going to run back down in this way. Couple more zip zaps. That one's already done. Try and get this one ran in here. My hand. I just got the two hardwares left for the jug and the belt. The plug for the alternator and the bolt. Other than that, pretty much set up. Start filling up the cooling system as soon as I get the jug back in and get the belt on. Get all good and tight. And it worked right here. Let's line this belt back up. Still in good enough shape. We didn't measure it, but looks good to me. Looks like I might have to double check the belt routing diagram. Alright, looks like I wasn't too far off there. Let me get the old mount in there. Old mountain wrench. Called it a ratchet earlier. Ratchet and wrench. Reversible box. Looks like the crank's off a hair. There we go. Still missing something. There we go. Just gotta route it just right. Get the line pulleys on first and then slide the slippers with the idlers and tensioners. So we'll just get the jug now. Since everything's bolted in, gotta plug in the alternator, the 10 for the battery back here. Once I get that jug back in, we'll be rocking and rolling. Good and tight as usual. Back up. Jug back in place. The bottom main one's the deal there. So usually I just slide them on as far as I can, and then I put the hose on. Clamp, that is, hose clamp. Make sure we plug that pressure switch back in. Looks like I'm going to have to use a different tool to keep that clamp open. I'll slide that jug on. just fine. In place. Hold the hose. Put that jug on. There it goes, just fine. Bite. Like I said, try my best not to damage anything. Get that hose clamp back right on. Hardware for the jug, make sure slide it in the bracketry. There's the nut, there's the bolt. Nut it and bolt it. Sensor's on its way. The jug didn't have a sensor. We'll get them other things in here in just a minute. Zip zap. Be careful, this thing will more powerful than my other zipper gun. So the belt's on, everything's in place. Need some coolant. Hose clamps are on. High pressure hose is on. Pressure switch, plug. Got the last clamps for the overflow expansion tank / jug here, whatever the hell you guys want to call it. There's my Japanese tools. Got that all set. Top it right off with some coolant here now and see what she does. All the hoses are on. Belt's on. Maybe we'll have to give it a dry fire here to see what we're working with. Get the battery back in there. There's that hose clamp. Zip zap, zip zap. That being said, let's get some coolant in there, battery back in there. Turn down the torque wrenches. People are going to say, turn them down for what? Well, that's because you don't want them to go bad on you. Put back some of these tools here. Spillage from not using a funnel. tiny hair bit. We'll grab a funnel now, maybe. Fire it up. What else now? That's it? Well, looks like fired right off. Right off without a hitch. So, coolant looks pretty cool. You can get some more water, top it off, put 2 gallons of coolant in there just now. Smooth right out, fired right off. Tested the battery before we did this job, turned out pretty swell. So with that being said, that commences the water pump installation. 2002 Ford Taurus SES. Appreciate you guys joining in this Sunday afternoon. Thanks again. Always a pleasure. Go ahead and like, subscribe, or leave a comment. And as usual, thanks for watching again. Another one all done. Getting it done all day, every day. Up here to perform.